and to shade the body form. Work in the directional flow of the body. Think about where the shadows might appear. A point that I might mention is that you will be adjusting on your transformer for the speed of your machine. Again, keep your skin area clean and free of any obstruction that might hamper your view. To achieve a full body wash effect, you will use a larger stroke with even slower speed and a quicker flipping action, and almost a clear dye. Just barely touching the surface of the skin, work in the direction of the flow of the shape that the body part should be. The part being the breast. The breast should be round, and at the bottom of the breast work in an upward stroke with very light pressure, and continue until desired tone is accomplished. Again, the flipping motion, very light pressure. You can see the reddening more than the transfer of the dye. This is normal. Again, gradually advancing the tone of the gray from light to dark. If you know that the front side area flows in that direction and the back side area flows in the other direction, then work your machine in those directions. Again, with the shape and forming of the body part. Notice the large stroking movement and the transparency of the dye. You want to enhance and create shadow and shape. Again, if you know that the front side goes in this direction, then move in that direction. flip in that direction. Again, very, very important to keep the skin tight at all times. Just barely skimming the surface of the skin. Shape and tone. Move in that direction, the backside in this direction. Notice the translucency of the dye at this point. Work in what I call half moon strokes. Watch the movement of my hand and fingers. The flipping motion to be explained as follows. Heavy pressure, flipping to light pressure. Be very careful not to overwork the areas. You do not want to drag your needle across the skin. You want to skim the surface of the skin. What you do not want to do is during the wash effect is to pack the color in. There are areas that will call for heavy packing. Flipping very lightly. Heavy pressure, light pressure. Just barely touching the surface of the skin. You do not want to penetrate too deep. Just lightly skimming the surface. Now this is an area that would call for some heavy solid packing. You need to be very careful not to damage the skin to the point of scarring. It's the skin that is tattooed, not the fat tissue or the muscle tissue. If the skin is damaged, then there is nothing to hold the dye in place with any definition. Again, the best teacher at this time is to just watch, and we will be advancing forward in the taping. With your art ability, knowing where muscle tone and shadowing and shaping might be placed is going to be half the battle. Coming back to finish the design, give the hip shape. Work in that directional flow, right to left. You can actually achieve a 3D effect. To finish, we will be covering the area to give the entire body color, wash color. Working in a directional flow, again shaping the shoulder with very light pressure and light dilution. With the final shading, you want to be very aware as not to darken the area so much as to wipe out your detail shading. Again, with the large flipping strokes and very light dilution, shaping and shadowing the breast. This would be an area that could be easily overworked, so be very aware and cautious. Moving on to the blade. Notice the left hand pulling on the skin to keep it tight. I am still using the 14 needle round, but only the side of the needle is being used. Work between your thumb and your forefinger, again with very light pressure, shaping and defining the blade. Notice the bridge of my tattooing hand, 3 fingers resting my machine and giving me control. The little fingers resting on the skin and the other 2 raising the machine off the skin area. You notice the dilution is very, very light. Just lightly skimming the surface of the skin. That just about completes the wash effect and shading. There will always be those last minute touch-ups. We will come back and finish the detailing with the 3 needle liner through the eyes, the mouth, the beadwork, as well as the headband, the finishing lines in the halter and the cape. Again, at this time, the best teacher would be to just watch and notice the movements. Again, notice me pulling down on the skin with fingers. We will put the final touches on to the black and gray wash effect piece by connecting any lines and any last minute details. Please watch to the finish of this design. Before beginning the other design, always clean the area and change all covers. Dispose of the used die caps. Always use the disinfectant spray and clean your work field to prevent any cross-contamination. Clean and sterilize the area to be tattooed. Remove any hair with a single-use razor. After removing the hair, spray with antibacterial soap and pat or fan dry. Using the Hibiclin solution and with a sterile cotton ball, apply to the surface of the skin that is to be tattooed. Make sure you center the design in the location that it is to be applied. With light and even pressure over the transfer, hold it in place for several seconds. Peel the transfer away slowly as not to smudge or distort the design. Again, be sure to open all pouches in front of your clients. Be willing to answer any and all questions that they may have about the sterilization procedures. Load the tube from the back side. Backslide your tube and needle loop through the front of your machine frame. Adjust your needle depth. Tighten the frame clasp. And repeat for the other machine if needed. In this design, we have to reproduce a wraparound smoke effect. The wash effect again comes into play to achieve the transparency. Very gently go over the outline of the smoke, just enough to barely see. Dilute the black ink to almost clear. You might choose to not use any dye at all. At this point, it's not that important to keep the skin as tight as usual, as all we're really trying to achieve is just a visible line as guidelines. Notice the very light touch, just barely touching the skin. Again, the bridge comes into effect. The 3 fingers giving a bridge to support the machine, and at the same time keeping your hand raised off the surface. Now at this time, when starting the outline, it's very important to keep the skin very tight again, stretching it under or with your thumb and forefinger. Again, finding your start points and your stop points. Start. Stop. At this time, remember that if I am not giving any instructions, it's very important to pay close attention to the movements and the strokes and actually the speed of movement. Again, working between the thumb and forefinger, keeping the area and the skin stretched and tight as possible. At this time, we will be advancing ahead in the taping. After completing the outline, we need to reproduce the smoke. To achieve translucency, the wash effect comes into play. To check your machine for dilution, you need to go to an area that you know will be solid black and run your machine in that area. If you think it is still too dark, then go back and dilute some more to the desired tone. With this type of work, you should be running your machine at a very low speed. Start by very gently skimming the surface of the skin. Work very slowly. Do not try to hurry through this. Working smoke or any translucency effect can be very time consuming. At this time, just watch and notice the pressure, the speed, as well as the strokes being used. Again, the best teacher at this time is to just watch and pay attention.